Mike Muse on the Conversations of the Mike Muse Show. We are jamming in here with the dynamic, the talented Karen Pittman.
Oh my God.
What's happening, Karen Pittman?
I'm done with all this chair dancing.
Yo,
That's
you
what
came in with it. You comfortable.
Comfortable. Yes, I am.
Yo, you brought the vibes to the Mike Muse Show today.
The Mike Muse Show is a vibe.
Yo, thank you for saying that. Can you say it again for the people in the back?
Mike Muse Show is a vibe.
Yo, let's go. Let's get it. We out here. Karen, I have been so excited to be in conversation with you for all the so many reasons, but I am on Good Morning America. And so when you were doing the morning show, I was like, wait a minute.
Oh my God.
You're doing too much.
Was it authentic? It was real.
Real.
It was a real moment.
It was real.
So many people tell me that. They're like, it is so real. Like, it is on point, and I'm so glad to hear it. And everybody who does that show is going to be so happy that it's on point.
Yeah, there's something about when you work in media, whether it's at any network, whether it's here at SiriusXM, there's just so many dynamics that come with being in media because it's just such a finite space.
Yep.
Right? There's only so many microphones on radio.
Well,
right?
and it attracts a certain personality. It attracts a certain kind of person who does it. And you're either in it for the truth and the facts and the journalism, or you're in it for maybe not necessarily those reasons.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it brings out a different, to your set, it attracts a certain type of person.
Yeah.
But then recognizing that the inventory is low, right? There's only so many microphones are available if you're doing radio. Yeah. There's only so many chairs that are available if you're doing television. And so that brings out sometimes the best in humans, and sometimes it brings out the worst in humans as they're fighting for that. But also, too, it's fighting for control, like who's behind the boards, right? Like who's behind the camera, who's putting the segments together, right? And what story are they telling it through? Yeah.
And because personality is even, I was just talking to someone how personality is even more imbued in how we get our information, how we get our facts through journalism. Whoever is telling that story to you is important now more than ever. And that hasn't always been true in journalism. Certainly television journalism, it's all been about keeping the personality separate from the story. But now your personality has to be involved in it. Yeah.
And do you think that's what the people want these days? Just as someone who consumes news, as a
for those
person,
people
as Karen
who
Pittman?
are watching Rachel Maddow and Megyn Kelly, yes, they want that. They want to hear their take on the news. And I don't know if it's good for news. But that's where it is right now. Like, we got to have a little personality in how we get our information.
And honest, I am here to talk with Karen about her new show, Forever. But I do just kind of want to lean into that just a little bit because this is just such an interesting conversation that we kind of landed in. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, what was your thought on news prior to doing the morning show? And then what was your thoughts after doing it? Because at the end of the day, you are an American citizen and you have to intake news just as Karen Pittman. So. Yeah.
Part of my take was that I didn't have a sense that it mattered where I got my news. It didn't matter. And I mostly got involved in news in the 24 news hour cycle when President Obama was candidate Obama. And I just really wanted as much information as possible about him because he was an intriguing candidate to me. So I wanted to know as much about him as I possibly could. But once I joined the show, I started to see the intersection between technology, social media, and the facts, the information I was getting about what was happening around me. And I started to see that there was a prism that I was looking at my news through, and I just needed to be more aware of what that prism was. So it's really been an education, more so personalities and, are all part of the character research that I do. But having worked for a huge technology company like Apple and Apple TV Plus, you start to really understand that it matters what device you're using to get your news. It matters what app pops up and informs you about it and who wrote that news that you just popped up on your app and why you need to pay attention to it. Because I get a breaking news if I open up my phone right now, there's some breaking news from the New York Times.
Yeah, it is. It's constant. It was so funny. I went to do a hit yesterday at ABC, and the hit time was 12:09. And I was going to talk about the breaking news, which was Senator Cruz doing a hearing about artificial intelligence and whether or not we need to do any deregulation. And I'm getting mic'd up, and it's 12:07, and I'm on the stage, and we're in a commercial break, and we're ready to go back on air. And then all of a sudden, we see the white smoke.
White smoke, honey. White smoke pushed you right out.
You already know. Being in the morning show.
White smoke.
They was like, Mike, thank you so much. And if you don't mind stepping to the side.
For the rest of the day.
For the rest of the day. Yeah. Unless you can speak Latin and Italian and you're very versed in the Old Testament and New Testament.
Or you're Catholic and you want to talk. Right.
Yeah, please step aside. But to your point, that's just the breaking news.
Yep.
And I was thinking about it too, Karen. Like, I remember right before I went on, I remember former President Biden and former First Lady Jill Biden, they were interviewing on The View. And I was like, oh, this is a big moment for them. I was watching and I was like, we haven't really heard from them since they left office. And then the white smoke. And you haven't heard anything about that conversation.
Let me tell you what, that white smoke done wiped everybody off of the front page. Right? And I'm sure some people are happy, like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
You know,
but that's just the way news is. It's just it's a constant breaking of the news and a constant cycle of the news. And I think it's really interesting you're talking about Apple TV now. We're going to move on, but this is fascinating. I've always wanted to have this conversation with you.
But why?
And I think you're just so dope. So thank you for being such an easy conversation.
It's why it's so relevant. It's why the morning show is a television show people will be watching for a long time.
And even the data, I think of like Apple TV. I think about Netflix, right? I think about these different streaming and the way that data is used to be able to target new audiences, right? In the way that they know what audience wants. They know what content is going to work for them, right? Which is what I love that we have forever.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I just love Mara Barker-Keel.
Me too.
I just think that she is just so special.
Yeah.
And I think what she does for culture is incredible. And I love how she's able to create cultural content that has such universal language, right? And universal appeal. And I think she's just a talent. So talk to me about why you were interested in engaging with Mara Barker-Keel and the show forever.
Well, the reason why I wanted to do it is just what you're talking about, why it's important to elevate Mara's work. She's centered Black women for her entire career. I was just saying, this is someone, she could do anything. She could write for anybody, but she centers these stories that she feels like are important. By the way, makes a lot of money doing it because there is a lot of money in being inclusive. People don't want to see the same story over and over and over again. They want variety. They want diversity. And the other reason was just the extraordinary group of collaborators that she had. Now, I had not read the Judy Blume book because I try not to stay too close to source material that Forever is based on, inspired by. But I knew that I wanted to work with Mara. I knew that I wanted to be in collaboration with Regina and her sister Raina, who also work on it. I wasn't familiar with Anthony Hemingway, but knew that he was just a powerhouse director. Just working with young African-American actors, and it's completely different from the morning show. It's a character that I haven't done before, and I often don't get to break the mold and do something different. You know, people want to see you do the same thing over and over again. So it was just a number of really important sort of moments for me.
Lean into a little bit more about breaking the mold of playing this character.
Well, in my body of work, I have a lot of high-performing, high-achieving women who are extremely ambitious, and I do think that's reflective of where we are as women, especially in this country. But none of my characters have children. Not one. And I have had a unique experience as a woman being high performing and high achieving and having 2 children. And I thought, I have a take on this. Like, I have a perspective. I have an authentic artistic perspective, and I can go into my artist toolkit and pull out a bunch of really bold and bright colors. In the same way that Tracee Ellis Ross has portrayed women on mothers on Blackish, and Esther Roll in Good Times, and Felicia Rashad in The Cosby Show. I thought, I want to throw my hat in that ring. I want to show what an African-American mother looks like right now in our world, or at least my perspective on it. And so in that way, you don't often get the opportunity to do something completely different in a career.
And what does that look like now, an African-American woman mother, high performing?
I think that it doesn't look like my mother's generation of women who were fighting to be out of the house, who were fighting just to even get their own bank account, get their own home loan. It looks like the daughters of those women who went much further out into society than they could. But I also think that we find my character, Dawn Edwards, in a transition point. She goes from being her son's superhero to being the villain in his origin story. Do you know what I mean? And that transition is interesting for me because once your children get to a certain age, you do have to really parent them, and you're not always liked, and that's painful. So yeah, all that was part of the lure of being in this story.
Don't think about, as you're just talking about your previous character, I'm thinking about some of your previous characters. Like, they don't have children. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but I think that's just an interesting statement, right? That doesn't need much discourse, but I just think it's definitely an interesting statement that these individuals don't have children.
Well, right? I also think that, it makes sense to me that Mara would write this character, because she also is a woman who high ambition, high performing, but has children. And that's such an interesting, compelling character. She's got to balance and juggle and do a lot of things. But when you start the story, you start this episode 1, you see Dawn in media res. You see her in the middle of this transition period, probably the most difficult period for a mother. They're not babies, and or you're not running after them and making sure they do their homework. You have to really lean back and let them take the wheel. So hard to do.
Not to keep leading into this, but I'm thinking about just other characters on shows of like high performing Black women, and I don't see them with children. And I really am thinking about that now. Obviously, I'm not going through a whole canon of American film and television, but as I'm thinking about some of the short lists that just came to mind quickly, I don't see them with children. And I think that's very fascinating, because I think representation matters, right? And you can be a high performing and a high achieving Black woman and have children and have a family.
Well, I also think it's at our time.
It's fascinating. I'm thinking about it.
We also, thank God for our mothers, we have the freedom to make that choice now. And I think that's also why you see women who are executives or lawyers or, on television, and they don't have children, because we can actually choose now not to have that life where men could make that choice, and there was no stigma, there was no shame attached to it. This is, I think, the first time that women really can decide, I want to do my own thing. Yeah. Do you know? And I'm not really going to do the kid thing. Do you know what I mean?
And it's okay.
And it's fine.
And it's okay.
It's fine.
Yeah, because for so long, there's a period where some people felt pressure. Yeah. And felt their identity was shaped and based on that. Yeah, yeah. Right? Not being home. I'm even thinking about right now a character on television in another show, this Black man. And the reason I love this show is because he's a single father that has a very contested relationship with the white mother. And in the way that this show is based, the white mother is seen as chaotic and disheveled and dysfunctional, but this Black man shows up as whole, intelligent, job, comes from this great wholesome family, stable. And I'm just like, we just never see that. That is such a flip of the script, right? Of that one, the racial dynamic, and then two, just of this Black man coming from such a stable home, and then him being stable, fighting for the kid. For me, I unfortunately say is almost damn near a revolutionary act to itself to be that.
I think you see that also in Forever. Eric Edwards is played by Wood Harris, and he's present. He's very available, emotionally available to his sons and to his wife. When Justin says to his dad, Mama's a lie, she's doing a lie, he's like, I wouldn't have it any other way. Do you know what I mean? Like, and Wood Harris.
I love that. I wouldn't have it.
I wouldn't have her any other way. You know what I mean? That's my wife. I love her. I think that that's also sort of a different way of looking at marriage and relationships that I think Mara brings to the table.
Was that a moment where Justin, the son, was trying to create division between the mom and dad?
No, he was just like, he was in his feelings about women. Do you know what I mean? Like, women are this, women are that. Even mom, she's a lot. She's too much. And he's like, no. Wow. Your mom is fine. That's what I want. Do you know what I mean? That's my best friend.
What a great lesson.
Yeah.
For a son to learn, but also for an audience to learn.
Yeah.
Right. And how to react and how to respond.
Well, it's a very different Black father than we've ever. Speaking of, to your point of a different representation of fatherhood, a Black man who completely supports his wife, completely supports his son, is present, is emotionally available. I mean, he also goes in and teaches his son, the ins and outs of protecting yourself in a sexual relationship. That's important too. Wow. There are men out there. Yeah. That are doing this. And I think part of the reason why we see it is not just the great work of Wood Harris, but it's because you have a Black woman, Black women with their gaze on family. Yeah. And as much as we love, obviously, Blackish and The Cosby Show and, I don't know, The Jeffersons and Good Times, these were all men with their gaze on family and Black family. This is what it feels like when you have a Black woman with her gaze on family. And it's a very unique, compassionate, warm, caring sort of gaze. You get to see what we look like as human beings in a very different way. And that does not just for a Black audience, but any audience who decides to engage, right?
I actually need this conversation, Karen. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I can't stop smiling because there's this idea, whether we want to admit it or not, whether we like it or not, a lot of times television can be instructive. Yeah. And instructive in the sense of how do you navigate difficult situations, right? And how are these characters navigating difficult situations and sometimes these situations may arise in your own personal life. You know what I mean? And so sometimes there's instructions through television, right, in terms of like how to handle it. And so these situations you just described, it's thank you for bringing it in. It might have been just something you were just saying, but I think it has such resonance and it's so powerful, right? Is to show other men who are watching the show, like how to be instructive when your son makes a comment about your wife, his mother, right? Like how to be where you can show that a partner woman can have range, right, of emotion, and how you handle that.
Yeah,
right?
at its highest
level. We're lacking a lot of instructive television in a way, right? We don't see that a lot.
At its highest level, it can do that. It's really meant to entertain. It's really meant to be entertaining, but at its highest level, it can do that. But you also have to be an audience member that's open to being instructed. You happen to be really engaged, and not everyone will go into it thinking the same things you're thinking. And that's what I think is great about a layered story like Forever. It's a nuanced story. You can look at Dawn and think she's I relate to her. You can look at Dawn and be like, I'm nothing like her as a mother, and why doesn't she calm down? Do you know what I mean? But
why is she doing too much?
Why is she doing too much? It's a well-written story, really. Again, it's I think.
Isn't that art though, right? Isn't that the beauty of when art? I was going to say good art, but that's not. Art is the eye beholder, right?
Yeah, right.
That's the beauty of art unto itself.
Art is in the eye of the beholder, for sure.
It's all about interpretation and how you're viewing it and how you're seeing it. Yeah. Well, I am just so thankful, Karen, for you to have joined the Mike Muse Show and for bringing so much great energy and instructive conversation. Good. I have thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of your career. Thank you. And I'm so proud you get a chance to play a character that breaks the mold of other things that you have done in the past, and I hope you keep breaking the mold, my friend.
I will.
And you have to come back.
I will. Of course, I'll come back for more dancing.
Yeah, more dancing. Yes. Audience, make sure you tune in to Forever on Netflix and catch Karen on all the dope things that she's doing. Until next time, folks, peace.